Hi, welcome back to my channel, Beautiful Minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany and I decided to do some vlogging this weekend. It's kind of weird because I haven't vlogged even one time this month, which just feels really strange, especially because I've been reading all these fun nostalgic books and I haven't really shared any of my thoughts like real time. I have been like reading wrap-ups and stuff like that, but I wanted to spend at least some time vlogging while I'm reading these books. It's Friday right now and my Friday is gonna be pretty busy. So I need to get caught up on some housework stuff and do some school with my daughter, and then I'm actually driving to go visit my younger sister. She lives like 2.5 hours away. So I'm going to be driving there and we're doing like a painting class together, which is really fun. I've actually never done one of those before, like the group painting things. I've never done one of those before, and a local place to her was doing it and she's like, let's do this for your birthday. And my birthday was on Monday, but we're doing it tonight, which is really fun. And then I'm going to spend the night there with her. So it'll be like girly sleepover time and then come back tomorrow. So I don't know how much reading I'm going to actually get done today. I might listen to an audiobook on the drive and I might not. I don't know. We'll see. I found audiobooks for both Great Expectations and Island of the Blue Dolphins. So I might listen to one of those, and if it's good narrator, might stick with it for the drive, but I might rather listen to music or just enjoy the quiet. So we'll see. But I did get a little reading done this morning. I read The Mask of the Red Death by Edgar Allan Poe. It's so weird reading books, or short stories in this case, that are about deadly pandemics when we're in the middle of a pandemic. Like, it's just so bizarre. So anyways, The Mask of the Red Death is basically about this plague pandemic that's sweeping through called the Red Death, and this prince decides to lock himself in his castle with 1,000 of his closest friends. Can you imagine having that many people in your house with you? Even if it's a castle, that's just crazy. And he's throwing all these like opulent and excessive feasts, and then, you know, you probably kind of guess what happens, but I won't give away the ending if you haven't read it. But yeah, it was really interesting, and a very interesting statement about how death is inevitable, no matter what your social standing is, no matter how you try to avoid it. We're all gonna die someday. Cheery thought to start my day out with. The book that I'm right in the middle of right now, the only one, is 3 by Ted Dekker. I'm actually not reading any other books right now, which is kind of weird. I am almost halfway through this. This was my favorite Ted Dekker book when I was a teenager, and I was obsessed with Ted Dekker in my teenage years and early 20s. So I wanted to reread at least one of his books this month. This is kind of like my last book that I was like, I have to read this. I've read quite a few of my other nostalgic reads, which has been great. And I have some more that I'm sure I'll get to because I still have like a week of September left. But definitely hoping to finish this weekend. I am going to bring it with me to my sister's house, so if I do have some reading time, this will be the book that I'm reading. So far, I am enjoying the book more than I thought I would. I've mentioned recently that all of Ted Dekker's recent books that I've read, I haven't really liked any of them. I've liked elements of like one of them, and the rest of them I just really have not enjoyed at all. And I couldn't decide, like, has his writing style changed? Or, I mean, he weaves faith into all his stories, so has the way he's portrayed faith, has that changed? And I think the answer to both of those based on this book is yes, they have both changed. This book is also more of a thriller type book and doesn't really have a whole lot of supernatural elements like a lot of his newer books do, where there's some sort of like Jesus figure or like demonic presence or whatever. That's not really present in this book, or at least hasn't been yet. And also the main character that we're following is a guy, and a lot of his newer books is like the main protagonist who's narrating that we're following or whatever is a woman. And I feel like he writes guys better than he writes girls. There is one female character in here that we're following as well, but the main person that we're following for the majority of the time is a man, and I feel like he does a better job of writing a man than a woman. I am kind of cracking up at some of the stuff in here because this was written in 2003. So the references to cell phones are hilarious. Like the main character gets his very first cell phone. He's like 28 or something, and he gets his first cell phone, and he talks about how it's so tiny that like it fits in the palm of his hand, and like he's like, I could probably swallow this. I was like, wow, like phones are so much bigger now, which is kind of funny. And he talks about how he spent only $19 on this phone. And then there's all kinds of references to like his house phone, and his house phone gets bugged and all these things, which is just so funny to me because, you know, who even has a house phone anymore? Maybe one of you does, but I don't and haven't in a very long time. Probably not since I was a teenager that lived at home, and that's when this book came out, and we had cell phones too, but still. So some of the dated stuff in here technology-wise is just kind of funny, but other than that, it doesn't seem too dated. The writing's not, like, my favorite. There are some things and I'm just kind of like, okay. But overall, I'm enjoying it more than I thought I would. So I'm not really sure once I'm done with 3 when I'm going to pick up. I do still have, like, plenty of nostalgic reads that I could read, so I mean, we'll see what I decide on. I also have to go to the library today, so I will share with you my library haul. Anyways, now I need to be productive and go get some stuff done before I have to leave. So I'm on my way to go visit my sister, but I'm gonna stop and get myself a cup of coffee first. And I think maybe I'll listen to the audiobook of Great Expectations on the way. Still a little undecided on that, but we'll see. I'm excited to go though. So then this begs the question, if I get half a pump of pumpkin spice in my cappuccino, does that make me half as basic as I could be? I have been listening to Great Expectations the entire way to my sister's house, and I am loving it so much. Like, it just sucked me right back in, and it is very nostalgic because I'm still very familiar with the plot, but I don't remember laughing as hard as I have while I've been listening to it. So if you're unfamiliar with the plot of Great Expectations, it's about a boy, Pip, who is an orphan, and he's being raised by his sister, and then his sister's husband, and his sister is really kind of like cruel and abusive and just not very nice, but her husband is just like the sweetest person ever. And for some reason, this elderly rich lady takes interest in him, and he starts like going over to her house and like playing with her niece, who is beautiful and the same age as him, but is like extremely proud and very unkind to him. And so that's pretty much where I am in the plot, is he's just started going to Miss Haversham's house, and oh my word, some of these characters, I love how Dickens writes characters. It's so good. And they have the best names. Like, he's got this uncle who is just like so
judgmental, but so bumbling, and he thinks he's so wise, but he's not, and his name is Pumblechook. And I love it so much. I'm enjoying it so much, and I laughed out loud no less than like 4 or 5 times on the ride here, and it's just been wonderful. I'm normally not a huge audiobook person, but I do love audiobooks on road trips because they make the time go by super fast. So I'm here, and I am going to go hang out with my sister now.
Hello, I am back home again, and I'm tired. I got home in the afternoon, but I was at my sister's house. We spent the night there, and we didn't go to sleep. That wasn't the plan. We just stayed up all night talking, and at like 1 o'clock we're like, maybe we should go to bed, and at 4 o'clock we're like, we should probably go to bed. And then it hit like 6 or 6:30, and we're like, well, now there's pretty much no point in going to bed. So I drove home, and I was really, really tired. But I did listen to some more of Great Expectations. I am about that far through. I guess it's like around a quarter of the way through. So it's like 129 pages, and I'm on chapter 18. So I actually listened to a lot of it. I listened to it the entire way to my sister's house, and then like 2/3 of the way home. So that, I've really enjoyed it. It's just been it has been very nostalgic to me, and I'm really, really happy that I've been listening to it, because it was one of those ones that I threw in there because this was like my favorite Charles Dickens book in high school, and I was like, is it still? So I mean, I was kind of like, I've been wanting to reread it, but it wasn't one that I thought that I would get to, because it's kind of lengthy. It's not as lengthy as a lot of Dickens, but it's like 400 something pages. So I was just like, oh, I don't know. I still don't know if I'll get all the way through it or not by the end of the month, but I think I can, because I've finished a lot of my reading. Now the question is, am I too tired to continue to read Dickens on absolutely no sleep? I was gonna take a nap, but at this point it's like 4 o'clock, and I'm kind of like, what is the point of taking a nap for a couple hours just to wake up and go to bed pretty soon afterwards? So I'm just gonna try to tough it out to see what happens. But I'm wondering how much my brain can handle, because listening to it on the drive home, I was totally like zoning out for some parts of it. So, but I'm familiar with the plot. I think that would have really been an issue if this had not been a reread, but I was still following the main plot points. But the first part of the book had a lot more charm. And as Pip is, swayed by the rich people calling him common, and him feeling for the first time in his life that, his heritage and his home isn't all it's cracked up to be, it makes Pip a little less likable, because it just does. But I mean, I feel like a lot of the plot that I remember has already happened, and there's still a lot of book left, so we'll see. Like I said, I am still reading 3. Did not get to read that at all at my sister's house, because I did not read one bit, because I didn't go to bed, so I didn't read before bed. So yeah, so still going to try and work on this one and finish it this weekend. I feel like this would be a lot easier to follow than Great Expectations. I mean, so we'll see. We'll see kind of like what I'm in the mood for when I get ready to kind of like settle in. I still have a little bit of reading time probably before I go to bed. it's Sunday afternoon and I meant to record more yesterday, but that didn't work out. I fell asleep really, really early. I did get a little bit of reading done. I read one more chapter of Great Expectations, and then I read some of 3, and I read a little bit more today. I am this far now, so I think I'll probably be able to finish this today. It's like 150-ish pages left. It is certainly far better, I think, than some of the more modern Ted Dekker that I have read. I'm really liking kind of the exploration of like kind of good and evil in man, and there are a lot of very interesting conversations surrounding that. So I am liking it because there's definitely like a lot of faith in this book, but that's not any different from normal Ted Dekker books nowadays. I just feel like the way that he talks about faith is kind of, I don't know, I almost want to say like sappy, if that makes sense. It feels more fluffy than some of the stuff that he wrote way back when. And I don't know. I'm enjoying the writing more than I thought I would. Still not like my favorite thing. I am finding myself probably being a little bit more critical of it than I would normally be, because I am kind of trying to compare and contrast. But it's not nearly as cringy as I was worried it would be. Obviously, there's a lot more Ted Dekker books like in his backlog from like the early 2000s, so I'm not really sure how accurate of a representation this is, because it is one of his earlier books. I think there are parts of it too, like I know how it ends, so I think that you know, kind of messes with the thriller atmosphere of it, because it's not as suspenseful, because I already know like the big twist ending. Then I read another Edgar Allan Poe short story this morning. It's The Facts in the Case of M. Valdemar. Gosh, it was really interesting. It was very riveting to read. I feel like I can't talk about it too much because it is only like, I mean, it's like less than 10 pages, so I don't want to say something that's gonna give way too much away. But basically it's about mesmerism, which was kind of, I think, a big thing back in Edgar Allan Poe's day, which is basically, I think, like hypnotism and putting people in a trance kind of a thing. So that's pretty much what it's about, and it has quite a ghastly ending in true Poe fashion. I am really surprised by how many of his books or short stories, I should say, are kind of gross, you know, because you really don't, or at least I don't expect to read those kind of things in like a classic that's like over 100 years old. You don't expect those kind of details to be in there, but they totally are with Poe. It was just really interesting though, very fascinating, very fast-paced, and it might be my favorite Poe that I've read so far out of all the ones that we've read. And it wasn't one that I read when I was a teenager. I think I would have remembered if I had, and I do not think I read this one as a teenager. It was one that Kelly suggested we read, because I've been reading all of these with Cozy Reader Kelly, if I didn't already say that. Yeah, so I am really enjoying these. It's been kind of fun because some old favorites have remained favorites, and then some I haven't read before have become new favorites, and some old favorites haven't been as much my favorite. So it's kind of fun to see how my tastes have changed over the years. So my plan tonight is to hopefully finish 3 and then probably read some Greater Expectations maybe. I also got some more Babysitters Club books because I just can't stop, apparently. Some of them are really fun. Some of them are weird. I don't know, but like I have really enjoyed them. Some of them I feel like are good and hold up, and some of them are extremely dated. And those ones are just kind of hilarious, so I'm still enjoying reading those ones. But the ones that still like kind of hold up, I've actually like really legitimately enjoyed those ones. So I got a few other ones that are from like characters' perspectives that I haven't read yet.
So that will be really fun.
Well, it's Monday morning, and in true Tiffany fashion, I am finishing my weekend reading vlog on a Monday. I did finish 3 last night, so that's good. It was better than I was expecting. I had a little bit of a hard time engaging at certain points though, and just felt more bored with it than I expected, but I think that's because like I've actually read this book many times in my life as a teenager and a young adult. And so I knew the twist and I knew it was coming, so that made it less like exciting to me. And then like after the twist, there's like a last chapter that's like 1 week later, and there are elements of that I just felt like super unrealistic. I mean, it's a thriller, which means that a lot of things are unrealistic, but I think that the book would have been better if that last chapter hadn't really been in there at all. It didn't seem super necessary. I do think it was a really interesting examination of human nature and basically like the idea that every human being has within them, you know, the capability of good or evil and warring in between those desires or parts of the human nature. And so I felt like that was like an interesting discussion, and I really liked the spirituality and faith discussion surrounding that more so than I like Ted Decker's faith in his more recent books. I'm kind of like not sure how to rate this because I didn't like love it as much as I loved it as a kid. I don't know. I'm kind of like between a 3 or 4. My official like Goodreads rating from like however long ago was like 4 stars. So I don't know if I keep that, because I also feel like my vision's a little clouded because I've read it so many times. So it's not like the twist took me off guard and I was like, oh my goodness, like I didn't feel that way at all. I feel like that really had something to do with it. And as an adult, I don't love rereading thrillers because when you already know the twist, I kind of don't care as much. The only exception to that for me is like Agatha Christie, because she leaves really good breadcrumbs that once you know the ending, you can see how you should have figured that out along the way. And I did not feel that way with this book at all. I felt like there's like one moment that kind of pointed to it a little bit, but not really. I only recognized it because I knew the ending, and it wasn't anything that I think would have been obvious otherwise. So overall, for a Christian thriller, it was definitely better than some of the other Christian thrillers I've read recently, and I definitely think it was better than Ted Decker's more recent work, which has been kind of off-putting to me. I would be interested in maybe in the future reading some other Ted Decker books, because I have like all of his old books that I bought when I was a teenager and stuff and have held on to. So I'd be interested in rereading some of those to see if those are any better. And then last night after I finished 3, I picked up Ramona Forever. I loved the Ramona books when I was a kid, and this one was my favorite one. I remember reading it and rereading it and rereading it. I think that's because it was the only Ramona book that I actually owned. The rest I got from the library. So I read this one, and I guess I could have started with a earlier Ramona book, but since this one was my favorite one when I was a kid, I went with this one. And I read the whole thing because it's short with big print and pictures and stuff. It was fun. It was fun. I like Ramona because I feel like Ramona is spunky and gets herself into trouble sometimes, but I don't think she's obnoxious like Junie B. Jones, who I feel like is just mean all the time. Junie B. Jones drives me insane. Even as a kid, I think I read one of her books and I was like, this kid's just a brat. Like, I feel like Ramona doesn't always try to be bratty. It just kind of, sometimes she just does things without thinking about them or speaks without thinking. I feel like Junie B. Jones is just spoiled. Anyways, so this Ramona book, this is actually the second to last Ramona book. I believe she's in 3rd grade in this book, and there's just like a lot of changes that are happening in her life. Her dad is trying to become a teacher, and there's a possibility that they might have to move if he can't find a position close to home. And she finds out that her mother is pregnant with a baby, and she's been the baby for a long time, so she's dealing with that. There's just yeah, there's a lot of like family changes that take place in this book, and I feel like it handles them pretty well, and while still remaining pretty like lighthearted and sweet. So I did enjoy this one. It was definitely not one of my favorite rereads. I feel like Ramona is like a series that like I'm not interested in reading anymore as an adult. You know, rereading like the Nancy Drew book, I'm like, oh, I could probably read another one of these and enjoy it. Or Misty of Chincoteague, like I loved that. And I was like, I want to read more Marguerite Henry. I read this and I'm like, I don't care whether or not I read any more Beverly Cleary or any more Ramona. So it's probably like a 3-star book for me, because I think that it is more meaningful, more interesting for the age demographic it's intended for. You know, there's some middle grade books that I feel like span all ages and everyone enjoys it, and for me personally, I don't think Ramona is one of those series. So I guess that's it for this reading vlog. I feel like I didn't actually vlog and talk about books quite as much as I normally do, but I think being busy and being gone and then like not sleeping for basically like 40 hours straight and then sleeping for a lot, I think that kind of impacted that quite a bit. But it was a really fun weekend, and it's fun to read some nostalgic reads and get some of them wrapped up as this month is coming to a close. It has been such a fun month to read all kinds of just books that I haven't read in years and have been interested in rereading. Anyways, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments below. I would love to hear are there books that you have reread as an adult that you were just like, wow, that just didn't hold up. That was really disappointing. You know, because I feel like that's happened with a few, and then I've been surprised at how many have held up. So I'd love to hear what you have been reading lately. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me, and I will see you again next time.